happened in early November. It so happened that I urgently needed to go to the dacha and pick up some valuables that I had accidentally forgotten there in the summer. I live on the other side of Moscow, and the dacha is about 20 kilometers from the Moscow Ring Road. It's a long way to get there. After the metro, you still have to shake on the commuter train for half an hour. I went after work terribly late. As a result, I got on the last commuter train at about 12:30 at night. By the time I got to the right station, it was over an hour. There were no people around, and the dacha was still a couple of kilometers away through a forest belt. It was cold, terribly cold. There was almost no civilization, only two dim lanterns by the platform. There were no taxis there either. Wildness. But there was nowhere to go. I quickened my pace and began to calm myself down internally. The moon had just begun to wane, so its light still illuminated my path quite well. The first 3 minutes were quiet and calm until I entered the forest. The narrow path under the fallen leaves and a thin layer of either snow or frost was almost invisible. I was walking at random. Suddenly, the night silence was broken by the sharp creak of a breaking tree branch, exactly where I had passed a minute ago. Horror washed over me like a wave. I felt hot. I instinctively turned around and the moon illuminated the huge silhouette rapidly approaching me. At that moment, I had no time for reflection. I ran forward in panic, clutching my bag. Behind me, I heard loud breathing and a low growl. I had the complete feeling that a wild animal was chasing me. It caught up with me catastrophically quickly. I only managed to scream, after which I fell and it hung over me. I was shaking. Heat and a tart animal smell emanated from its body. It deafened me with its loud breathing, stood right above me, and began to sniff my head and neck. The moon disappeared behind the clouds. Only sensations remained. Impenetrable darkness and the burning rage of a predator above me. The beast swung its paw with the sharpest claws, tearing my jacket off. Its next swing hit me right in the stomach. I couldn't even scream from horror. It seemed like my heart was stopping. When its teeth came into play, I was already saying goodbye to life. It tore my clothes several times around the neck. The moon came out again, and the last thing I saw was how the massive muzzle of a wolf-like beast with burning eyes and an open mouth was descending towards my neck. I closed my eyes. Somewhere in the distance, a drawn-out howl was heard. The beast above me was distracted to answer its terrible interlocutor. Its howl covered me completely. I still didn't dare look at him. There was silence for a few seconds, after which a new call sounded from afar. And then the monster that had tried to have dinner with me ran off to its relatives. I looked around, it was empty, and the moon was shining again. I ran to the dacha, opened the door with shaking hands, and locked it with all the locks. I still couldn't fall asleep. I treated the oblique wounds on my stomach, which were aching terribly. I packed my things, and in the morning my brother came for me. I told him everything. They decided to sell the dacha. We consulted and came to the conclusion that it couldn't have been a wolf. Wolves are 3 times smaller than my terrible pursuer. Either it was the devil himself or a werewolf from the Moscow region. Don't walk around at night, children. Once upon a time, there lived a girl named Katya. This girl was very embarrassed by her skinny legs. Everyone laughed at her, gave her offensive nicknames like the Little Match Girl, Teremok, or Heron. This upset Katya very much. She often cried and hated her skinny legs. In the summer, she was sent to a camp. There were supposed to be children from other schools there who had not known Katya before. So she came up with this trick. Katya put on 3 pairs of jeans at once, so that her legs seemed thicker. It turned out pretty good, actually. Katya went to camp like that, and there she almost never took off her jeans. In the evening, when she went to bed, Katya covered herself with a blanket, taking off her jeans so that no one would notice. She also went to the toilet only when no one was there. Katya did not take a shower at all. At night, she wiped herself with a wet towel. Everything was fine until Katya got caught in a downpour. She and the other girls were sent to collect pine cones in the forest, and then it started to rain. Neither Katya nor the other girls were afraid of the rain. On the contrary, they were pleased to cool off a little after the heat. The girls, soaking wet, completed the task and returned to their group. The other girls changed into dry clothes, but Katya only changed her t-shirt. She had no spare pants. The rest of the day and the whole evening, the jeans were wet. The counselor scolded Katya for leaving wet marks everywhere, but Katya did not want to take off her wet jeans at all. It was time to sleep. Katya, as usual, covered herself with a blanket, tried to take off her jeans, but she could not. So she went to bed right in her wet jeans and 3 wet jeans. The jeans dried out overnight and shrunk, painfully squeezing her body. Katya woke up at 6 in the morning, before she had to get up, from terrible pain, and this pain was getting worse. She should have called someone for help, but for Katya, it would have been a terrible shame. Everyone would have found out that she had skinny legs and that she hid them under 3 jeans. The girl found scissors and tried to cut the jeans with them, but she couldn't. The jeans were stretched too tightly. It was impossible to hook the fabric with scissors. Katya, crying from pain, got to the shower, where she stood under a stream of cold water. The jeans were swollen. She managed to take them off somehow. Katya looks at her legs. They have become very thin, as if the jeans wrung them out. Instead of legs, there were 2 bones covered with skin. Then music started playing on the radio. It was 7 o'clock, time to get up. Katya panicked. She pulled on one pair of jeans, the biggest ones, and decided to hide in the reeds on the river. No one would see her there, and at night she would crawl out onto the bank and steal food. Katya went to the exit, but it was gone. Katya looked around. There was no door anywhere. Everything was in place. Water pipes, benches, hooks. But there was no door through which she ran in. In fact, Katya died the moment she took off her last pair of jeans. She had an internal hemorrhage. Now Katya is a ghost. She dreams of getting out of the shower, but she can't. When girls come here to wash, Katya the ghost steals clothes from those with ugly legs. But she can't carry them far, so she just throws the clothes on the floor. Once we were in the forest at about 12:30 at night, testing a petard, or rather, wanted to test it. There were 3 of us, me, my wife, and our mutual friend. The girls were standing at the edge of the forest. I was setting the charge. I set it, lit the retarder, and went back, periodically looking back so as not to lose sight of the light. I chose the most suitable place for observation at a safe distance and called the girls on the radio. We were standing looking at the light, and then it threw out a stream of sparks. The gunpowder tablet pressed into the detonator ignited and disappeared. We waited further. Silence. I took out a flashlight and went to the place of the planting. You can approach it right away. Such is the design of the device. If the tablet burns out and there is no explosion, then the device is 100% inert. As I walked, the bluish beam of the arc lamp jumped over the snow-covered bushes, spruce branches, small rowan trees, and birches. A couple of times, it seemed to me that I saw some movement. Probably it was due to the difference in color in the spot, the arc exfoliates from shaking and temperature changes. I reached the place and was very surprised. The stump was completely empty. Only a couple of still warm drops of burnt plastic from the retarder remained on it. I shone the light below, searched within a radius of 5 meters. The only tracks were those along which I left and returned. While searching, I heard a distinct crunch of branches somewhere in the forest, about 20-30 meters from the clearing. I walked around the stump, and then there was a crunch closer and more distinctly. The radio came to life. My wife asked me to go back. I replied that I would look a little longer, although I was already feeling uncomfortable. I waved the flashlight around, and then some dark rags, similar to scraps of black tulle, clearly flashed in the beam, right on the side where it had crunched. I began to carefully move away towards the exit from the forest, holding the flashlight in front of me, which suddenly began to flicker, as if the inverter frequency had gone out of order and then went out completely. That's when I got really scared and ran, feeling for the reset button of the ignition circuit with my finger. But the flashlight turned on itself as soon as I ran about 30 meters away from the clearing with the stump. I turned around and saw something that I will remember all my life. Above the stump, in complete silence, broken only by the clatter of the inverter and my breathing, A whirlwind of translucent rags was smoothly swirling, and a moment later, some kind of spasm, similar to a wave on water, crossed out the space in front of me, and everything disappeared. I returned to the girls, poured myself half a glass of kali, and we silently walked out of the forest. As they later said after I left for the cache site, they had a clear sense of someone's presence, as if someone unkind was quickly moving behind the bushes around, managing to hide before their gaze reached him. While we were walking to the village, all three of us had this feeling, but it was already weakened, as if someone was looking at our backs.